You know, it's amazing that the allergy medicine I'm taking is really affecting my speed here. No, it's great, and it's such a beautiful day. I think that in the future we should try to incorporate some outdoor events for the con. You know, an obstacle course. I saw that happen once. MTAC did that was pretty funny. But also, like, I don't know, maybe like anime picnic lunch. All right, so Q&A. That means you Q and I A, right? So let's start. What we got? Yeah.
Well, I have a two-part question. First, would you like a magic card?
Oh, that's good.
And secondly, what is your favorite moment from voicing James and or Brock?
I would like a magic carp. You do know that I did play the magic carp salesman, right? And that, yes. Which many people go, oh, I played that guy, but I did, yes, I did play that. Just on thanks, the magic carp. Yes, that's very sweet. I appreciate that. Let's see, my favorite. I have to say that with James, I enjoyed saying, I'm a flaming Motrin. I don't know why, I mean, it just had so many double entendres there. Exactly. Now with Brock, you know, someone sent me a link the other day. It was an 8-minute YouTube video of all of Brock's horn dog moments.
Only 8 minutes?
They were just one-liners. Like that.
What moments?
And a horn dog is being a horn dog. And I have to admit, I laughed. I laughed hysterically because I didn't even remember half of those things because they had nothing to do with what was going on in the show. He's like watching Ash duel to the death in a thing, and Misty's like, you know, we need to root for Ash here, and then he's like, I kind of like the other girl. You know what I mean? I mean, there's so many of those moments. I don't know. Do you have a favorite Brock moment? See how hard it is?
Yeah, it is. It's really tough. He's a great character along with James.
Yes, he was a lot of fun to play. Yes. So sorry. Well, thank you for the magic carp. I'm very excited about that.
Can you do your expression of Seto Kaiba whenever Yugi brought out Exodia in the first episode? if you can remember.
You know, I don't even. Not only did I direct the entire first and second season of Yu-Gi-Oh, but I do not remember any of it. All right, so what did I do? What would I say if he brought up Exodia? Right? Right?
Can you say Blue Eyes White Dragon?
Of course I can. Blue Eyes White Dragon! I don't know how many times I had to say that. 1,000. Can you do it louder? Do it louder. Can't even, you know, thank goodness they ran out of dragons. Because each one needed to, you know, as it evolved and I got a better one or played more of them, it needs to be louder than that last one. Yeah. All right, what else we got?
I got 2 questions. One, how did you end up being Kaiba, and 2, what was your favorite thing about doing Kaiba?
Well, actually, that's a good question, because when, for years, when I was working on Pokemon, before 4Kids was really a full production studio, but was more of a, they would license the stuff out and other satellite studios would do the recording. When 4Kids decided to bring all of that work in-house, they called me and said, would you be interested in directing for us on staff? Because I was already directing some of the other actors on Pokemon, and I was also directing myself. And I had a background in production. And so I said, sure, that'd be great. So they brought me in and they said, this is the show that we're going to be doing. And they showed me the first episode of Pokemon, and I said, of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I said, this is going to be a huge hit. It's going to be a huge hit because everybody who liked Pokemon, who maybe is a little older now, is going to evolve into watching this show because it's sort of the teenage version of that. We're more 90210 kind of thing. Of anime. So I was the director, and I had to do a casting session. So I brought in all the actors that you guys know, and we went through a lot of auditions. We went through, oh goodness, I mean, there probably were 50 men that read for that, and maybe like 25 women for Taya, you know, things like that. And they found the Joey, and they found, you know, Dan Green, you know, and they found, you know, the Tristan, even though we went through different, there were 2 different Tristans. But we were getting stuck on finding Kaiba. And the producer at that time had this voice in his head of what he wanted Kaiba to sound like. When you're the director and not the producer, you can make suggestions and you can sort of bring in the people that you think are right for it, but the final say has to do with what the producer hears and says. So, it's getting down to the wire of having to produce the show, start directing and getting these lines recorded, and we haven't have a Kaiba yet. And I said to the producer after a couple of weeks of this, and we're, you know, deadline is approaching, you know that I should play this character, right? And he's like, what? I said, this is totally the character that I should play. Now, at that time, the anime stuff that they knew was Brock and James, which is all comedy stuff. And I was like, as funny as I've been known to be, I'm more of a jerk than you know. Trust me. So I said, this is like a no-brainer. I got the sarcasm, and I definitely have the right voice for it. So I did it, I auditioned for it, and he said, yeah, that's what I've been waiting to hear. Let's do it. So it was funny because for a long time, you know, when you're wearing one hat, when you're being paid to be the director, you don't necessarily need to take the work away from an actor. Somebody else can get that job. So I've tried not to cast myself in shows that I'm directing. Now with Pokemon, I was acting first, and then they said, why don't you just direct yourself? It'll help us and save some money, blah, blah, blah. But with Yu-Gi-Oh, I had a gig, so I wasn't going to suggest myself for that role. But after all of that frustrating casting stuff, I was like, all right, I should play it. So that's how I played Yu-Gi-Oh. And what was my favorite Kaiba moment? You know, I gotta say, as much as it was fun to say all the snide comments and make fun of Joey and stuff like that, I kind of really liked the fact that he was always about protecting his brother. So any of these episodes where he's always showing that side of him, so that we as fans go, he's not really a bad guy. You know, and we learn later that his whole role is basically to keep Yugi on his toes and make him, it's almost like the Apollo Creed to Rocky, make him the best duelist he could possibly be. So I think the Mokaba stuff was kind of cool, how protected he was. All right, what else we got?
How much do you hate the Gourry for making that separate stuff?
Well, you know what's funny about that, because I'm doing a con with him in a couple of weeks. And, you know, and the fans always ask me, you know, do the abridged lines. Here's what's funny about that to me. It's great that he's got the time to do that. I have no time. I got no time to do anything. I watch, like, you know, football on Sunday, and I'm working every other day of the week. So the fact that he's got that much time and passion to do that, that's great. I get paid for it. I don't have any personal opinion about him. I mean, he does what he does. But I will say this, and you will never get to hear it, but the outtakes from the real actors on all of these shows are so much funnier than everything he comes up with. Because until you've heard Dan Green curse, trust me, little Greenbow has a lot to learn. Yes, but our engineers would always keep them and line them up with the lip flap and play them back for us. You'll never see them. But what's funny is that the people that, and I'm not going to name any names, I mean, Dan is a very, very good friend of mine, and he's not the worst of them with the stuff, but the most innocent of our voice actors that you probably know have the dirtiest mouths. You know, I curse all the time, but they expected that from me. So there you go, because I'm from Brooklyn, so there you go. All right, what else we got?
Well, I do have a question. You said you get paid. Is that an hourly payment or is it how many scripts you read?
With anime stuff, it's an hourly payment.
Just like general.
Well, we talked about this yesterday in the panel. If you're doing commercial stuff, you get paid a session fee and then residuals. With I was lucky enough to work on some bigger projects. So, like, first of all, in the early days of Pokemon, we got paid guarantees, movie residuals, things like that in the beginning. So there's a big difference between working on like the first Pokemon movie and working on, I don't know, name some anime that you like.
But it's hourly payment?
No, I'm saying that back in the day, it was a lot more than that. But nowadays, if you work on Pokemon, you get paid by the hour.
So when you work in the movie, is the pay different?
Yeah.
Like, how's the work?
You get paid a lot of money.
I'm not talking about, we're talking about hourly or just the whole thing?
No, you get paid a guarantee. Here's how much money you get for doing the movie, and here's how much money you get every time someone buys the movie.
Oh.
But it's residuals. But it doesn't work like that anymore, especially not for the new cast people. Big difference. Big difference. All right, next question. Get back. Yeah, you.
What was your favorite character on any anime that you done, and why?
You know, I guess it's got to be the first animation character that I ever got to really portray more than just like a one-off kind of thing. Gourry from Slayers was my favorite. You know, I grew up watching the anime that I knew as a kid. My favorite show was Battle of the Planets. And me and my friends would play as G-Force, running around, you know, and of course I was Mark because basically Mark is Casey Kasem, and I could do his voice. So that was my taste of anime before it exploded into the thing it is now. So when I got the audition for that, and I walk in and I'm like, I'm going to be working in anime and doing matching lip flap, and wow, this is really cool. The best part of that show was that the director and the engineer, very good friends of mine, were like, yeah, they're just not finishing the scripts on time. So we're gonna have to make some stuff up as we go. Okay. So much of what Gourry says was not in the script. And that was fun, to be able to ad-lib and say some funny things and look at the screen and, you know, once again, a lot of the comedy that I think we all enjoy from these shows has nothing to do with the plot line, right? It's like an aside, it's like the Team Rocket thing is in there, you're like, why is Team Rocket even in this episode? Just to say that funny thing and then they go away. I think that's what Slayers had so much of. Gourry had no idea what was going on, and I had the freedom to actually do that in my character because I had no idea what was going on. The writer had no idea, the director were all like, I have no idea what's going on. So I think Gourry would be that. In the red jacket, my friend.
Yes, I have two questions.
See, it's always these two-parters.
Well, they're interesting for you to answer.
I'm letting you go.
Now, in both Pokemon and Slayers,
Yeah.
you worked with Rachel Lillis. Do you guys still keep in touch?
Rachel and I keep in touch a little bit, I guess, via Facebook, a couple of emails, just to, you know, so many of the anime, or so many of the voice actors, you know, we would socialize, especially the original cast of Pokemon. Back in those days, there were like 10 of us that worked on all of these shows, as you probably know when you look at the credits. So that was our little core of friends, from Lisa, you know, Veronica, you know, and things like that. So we would see each other passing in the hall. You know, maybe Rachel had just finished doing Jesse, and hey, how are you? And I'm about to go into the booth and do James. So it was like, but maybe a couple times we'd all go out to dinner or have some drinks and stuff like that. But it's not like we hung out. But I will tell you that on Wednesday nights, I do game with, you know, Mark Thompson and Danny Green and then those guys. We all like are on Xbox together. So and one of the guys that is with us is one of the engineers, and he's like, you know, I'm like, okay, keep your head down. Keep your head down. All right, I got you covered. And he'll go, will Kaiba stop telling Yugi what to do? So So I mean, we are friends, but we don't hang out, I think, as physically as we do, you know, via the internet. There you go. So that was that 2 questions?
It was 2. I had the second one was, you think you could do Gourry's "Light Come Forth" cry?
Light come forth!
Thank you.
Now do I have the real sword or do I have the fake one? You know, because that's what always happened in that show. Right? And it's not the real sword.